Oh, we are live. The video didn't play, I guess. So we were just sitting here.
Yeah.
Minding our own business, waiting for the intro to go, and it didn't go. I am Brandon Marcel. Welcome to the College Football Insiders. It is game week 3, and we got a lot of big games on tap. We're going to break down, do a lot of quick picks at the end of the show. A lot of nationally ranked games. I'm counting here, 3 ranked on ranked matchups this week, and then a lot of potential upsets here brewing this week. But as we always want to do, we want to get into the big picture stuff and what we've been reporting on throughout the week to provide you some different kind of angles on the big stories going on in college football and heading into these big time week 3 matchups. Gentlemen, Shehan J. Araja and Chris Hummer are joining me. We are not joined by Matt Zenitz today because apparently his throat is just completely worn out. And I haven't heard him today. I haven't talked to him today. So
phrasing, Brandon.
Yeah.
Pause.
So, all right, let's get into it, guys. Big picture. Let's start with Georgia at Tennessee. Arguably the game of the week. A lot of questions here going into it. I wanted to start off with Georgia's offense, Chris Hummer, because we all had questions about Gunnar Stockton at quarterback going into this season. We saw him last year come in the SEC championship game off the bench. I thought he played pretty well in the playoff, despite not having big numbers because Notre Dame's pass rush was just getting to him. They've obviously have not played quality competition the first 2 weeks of the season, but you look at his numbers and some of the things going on, not maybe as productive as maybe you would be hoping for going into a big matchup like this. What are we hearing on the ground in Athens about Georgia's offense?
Well, I think a couple things with this. One, I think some of the reviews of Gunnar Stockton this offseason, for me, I think I got largely positive, the stuff on him, talking to people around the Georgia program about how he would do. I think there's a lot of optimism about him coming into the Notre Dame game or coming out of the Notre Dame game. But at the same time, frankly, Georgia did kick the tires on some transfer portal quarterbacks. That is a thing that happened. And I think it was one of those, we'll see what happens when the bullets are live type things with Gunnar Stockton. And thus far, I think the results have been mixed. And it should be said up front that Georgia's been very vanilla so far offensively. You're not trying to show a lot against Marshall and Austin Peay. Tennessee's coming up. You're trying to save your kind of stuff for there. But I think Gunnar Stockton is currently averaging 5.1 air yards per attempt, averaged at the target. It's not what you love out of your quarterback necessarily. Again, trying to be pretty vanilla, but that's a concern. But I would argue what's more concerning is Georgia's offensive line right now. If you're looking at an area of weakness for Georgia against Tennessee, it's that offensive line. Georgia's currently 96th nationally in yards allowed before contact created. They're right next to Ohio and Northwestern in those rankings, to put that into some context. And then Georgia's offensive line is 50th nationally in pressures allowed per game, essentially. So it hasn't been a lights out performance by Georgia earlier this season offensively. But I do kind of believe that as we get into this game, you're going to see a lot more from them.
It's interesting because, like you said, you do have that vanilla aspect to the offense. You don't want to show too much, but I think that particular number, the air yards, are the thing that is a little weird to me because you spent a lot of money to bring in some big time receivers and especially guys that you wanted to go down the field a little bit. I mean, Zachariah Branch, you saw a little bit flash in that first game, was kind of a non-factor in the second game, but he was one of the top targets of the offseason. And even if you want to go on yards per attempt, I mean, he's only at 7.2, which for playing the competition that they've played, I know that they're vanilla. You still should be able to create a little bit more opportunity than that. And so, again, the final score of this Georgia game was 28-6 against Austin Peay. They only scored 14 points in the first half. They really kind of needed to pull away at the end of the game. And Austin Peay is not a bad FCS team, but it's an FCS team, right? We're used to Georgia cooking these teams by 40 to 50 points. So I think there's been miscommunication, like you talked about. I mean, it's funny. I feel like you can't talk about Georgia without going back to their title teams. But like there were so many offensive linemen, even in 23 and 24, that were part of those 21 and 22 title teams. Tate Ratledge was kind of the last of those guys last year. And so they are still in the process of restocking on the offensive line in a way. And like you said, just the early returns have been a little concerning and have been very un-Georgia-like.
Yeah, their offensive line struggled last year. That was one of their big reasons why they were able to run the ball, and that was really been a staple for Georgia. That kind of got them in trouble, especially come playoff time. Notre Dame was able to tee off on Gunnar Stockton, and they did so with abandon and had a lot of success. So going against Tennessee, a Tennessee team, by the way, which we'll get into in our injury report, without two of their starting cornerbacks in this game, if Gunnar Stockton struggles, and I know it's a big road game here, not able to push the ball down the field against Tennessee, you probably got to like Tennessee's chances a little bit in this one, especially considering what they've got going on at quarterback for Tennessee. We hit on this week at CBSSports.com, the Joey Aguilar era compared to the Nico Iamaleava era. A lot of questions there about whether this offense is better under Joey Aguilar. Chris, you've done a lot of reporting on this. Is this a better Tennessee team with Joey Aguilar?
Well, in the words of producer Aaron, Tennessee's feeling its revenge body right now. You know what I mean? Like they're feeling good. And I think if you go read the story me and John Talty published at CBSSports.com today, you would get a sense of that. We detailed the relationship between Nico and Tennessee fraying, but we also detailed how people are feeling about Joey Aguilar, which is immensely positive. People there talk about him as an elite leader. He's a very different leader than Nico was. This is not to say Nico was a bad person or like a bad egg at Tennessee. People actually speak very well of the human that he was. But Joey's somebody who leads from the front. Joey's someone that leads loudly. And I think there's been a lot of excitement in the program about what they're getting there. And additionally, like if you look at the numbers, like Tennessee's just pushing the ball downfield better than they did with Nico. Like that is just a fact. Like this is a Josh Heupel offense, a veer and shoot offshoot that works best when you're stretching the field vertically to complement the run game that they use. And last year they finished 96 nationally in passing plays of 20 plus yards downfield. Nico completed just 32% of his pass. This is a lot of stats, but basically they're much better this year. This is a time that Tennessee has taken a great step in terms of the like intermediate to long routes. And Joey Aguilar's played a big role in that. So I think people are on Tennessee through 2 games are thrilled. And in the words of one person that I talked to around the Tennessee program, in hindsight, we're good.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it was that first game against Syracuse where you noticed the difference. You know, there was that passing play for a touchdown. I think it was in the third quarter. He goes like 50 air yards on that play. And I turned to my wife who was sitting by me and I'm like, I feel like that's the best pass that Tennessee has thrown since Hendon Hooker was here. Like they just have not had that level of consistency in the deep passing game. And I think the other thing that has to impress you for Joey Aguilar heading into this situation is while they have pushed the ball down the field, he's done a good job of protecting himself as well. This was a player who led the nation in interceptions last year with 14 interceptions. And I think that ultimately, like, obviously, the game is a little bit easier for him when he's dealing with such a talent mismatch, but I do think that he's done a really good job of finding his spots, of getting to the right place. And I mean, again, I covered obviously those veer and shoot offenses at Baylor in the mid 2010s. Like you said, when the downfield component isn't there, like it neuters the entire offense, because then all of a sudden you're running these choice routes that aren't even stretching the field. And all of a sudden you're playing in a shoebox, and all of a sudden you're able to stack the box in a different kind of way. And this offense really works off of the running game in so many ways. So I think that Aguilar has been such a huge part of bringing this offense along. Now, of course, they play one of the toughest tests that they're going to play all year against the Georgia Bulldogs. And Kirby Smart has had their number ever since he got there. So the first year they gave up, I believe, 31 points. Ever since then, Tennessee has never scored more than 21 points against them. And over the last 7 years, Tennessee is averaging 13 points per game against Georgia. So he's done a great job of shutting down this offense. Even during their playoff season last year, it was 31-17. You know, so that's going to be the big challenge for them, is are they able to create different types of opportunities now with Aguilar in the lineup?
Yeah, Nico Iamaleava last year, this is the numbers. I'm big into split stats, okay? Against teams with losing records, he had 11 touchdown passes, 2 picks. Against teams that had a pulse with a winning record, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 6 games. And the yards per attempt dropped dramatically from 9.4 yards to 6.1 yards. Let's see if Joey Aguilar, now that he's going to go against an SEC team and a great one at that, potentially an SEC champion coming up, can be what Tennessee's been missing, kind of the spark, the leader that can really get them going.
And I do just want to emphasize, like, East Tennessee State and Syracuse are much different tests than Georgia's going to be defensively. Like, we're going to know a lot more about this Joey Aguilar experiment on Saturday, but people are on that program are really thrilled with what they got, and at a pretty steep discount too, to boot. So that never hurts.
By the way, you guys probably do know, but do you know who the starting quarterback at East Tennessee State is right now?
No.
Cade
Honestly,
McNamara.
I have no idea who's starting for Will Haley. I probably
Cade McNamara. Wow.
Cade McNamara is the starting quarterback over there. So, you know what? Georgia only beat Cade McNamara, whatever it was, 27-11 in the playoff. Tennessee dropped 77 on Cade McNamara. I know he doesn't play defense, but maybe we can project a little bit forward there.
Let's move on to number 16 Texas A&M at number 8 Notre Dame. This is a primetime matchup, going to be 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We remember what happened last year in this game. It was nip tuck in the first half. Then Notre Dame was able to pull away, being able to run the ball pretty effectively with Jeremiah Love. I got issues with Notre Dame and being able to run the ball or not be able to run the ball. I wanted to hit on this real quick, guys. Jeremiah Love, since he broke off that 98-yard touchdown run in the first round of the college football playoff last year against Indiana, he's averaging less than 3 yards per carry. I don't know if it's him, it's the play calling, or a mixture of both. But in their season opener against Miami, they didn't give him the ball very much to run the ball. He can do everything. He can catch it out of the backfield, which he did very superbly against that. But the common thread after that game was maybe you should have let him touch the ball like 5 more times. He's probably the best. Well, he is the best player on your team. He might be the best running back in the country. Why aren't we feeding him the ball? But on the other side is Texas A&M and a quarterback situation where, listen, Marcel Reed is someone that I wouldn't say has a lot of hype. He's probably overshadowed in that state because of Arch Manning. But to me, this guy could be super electric. And Chris, you wrote a story this week at CBSSports.com about Marcel Reed not wanting to be kind of labeled as the running quarterback. I would argue he's got to run in this game to be able to win it. But what kind of quarterback are we going to see Saturday night when Marcel Reed takes the field under the big bright lights?
Can I interest you in Jaden Daniels? Because that's what his quarterback trainer compared him to. And like, obviously quarterback trainers are biased. Like, that's just your guy. But for context, he works with Jeff Christensen, who's a guy up in Dallas. He works with guys in college like Josh Hoover. But in the NFL, his 2 most famous clients are 2 of probably the 6 best quarterbacks in the league. It's Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. So this is a guy who's seen a lot of talents roll through. And if you talk to people, like, you look at the frames, like, there are some similarities in terms of like both their arm talent and their ability to kind of run the ball as athletes and create yards on their own. But I think Marcel Reed is really focused this season on erasing that running quarterback label that really popped up last year in the LSU game when he basically won that game with his legs coming back. And I think if you just dive into his career, you see somebody who's gotten a little better every season. He was completing, I think, 54% of his passes as a junior in high school. And this is somebody in the second half of last season, like when he got reinserted in the starting lineup permanently over Connor Wegman, he was completing 66% of his passes. And this year he set an accuracy goal to be in the 70% range. And that's what elite quarterbacks do in college football. And he wants to be an elite quarterback. He talked about winning a Heisman with me as a goal. He talked about going to the playoff as a goal. And this is somebody that is very goal oriented. And this is one of the best secondaries in the country that he's going to go up against on Saturday. And Notre Dame, Leonard Moore, one of the best cornerbacks in the country. And this is an opportunity for him and really for the Texas A&M program under Mike Elko to take a step, right? Like, this is a program that was around the hoop last year, finished 1-3 to end the regular season, missed the SEC championship game. We haven't seen them go on the road and win a huge game like this in the Mike Elko tenure. And this is both of their opportunities to kind of emerge as maybe to emerge and for us to think about them in a different way.
Yeah, Marcel Reed completing 66.1% of his passes so far this season, 7 touchdown passes. More importantly, 0 interceptions. You got to cut down those turnovers when you're on the road in a big game environment like this. This will be his first big test, probably his biggest test of his career, to be quite honest. And I'm interested to see how he attacks that Notre Dame defense, which by all accounts, we've only seen him in one game, but it was against Miami. That defense looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, and I will say, too, I was at that LSU game, and I followed Marcel Reed's career for a little while, right? I mean, he was a little bit of an afterthought in that program in some ways, not necessarily the highest-ranked kid, and of course, they had Wigman in the lineup. And I just feel from last year to this year, of course, Chris, you kind of detailed them messing with his throwing motion a little bit. He looks so much more like a passer this year, right? Last year, you kind of see the throwing, right? You see him being able to go downfield. I think that 2 of his 3 touchdowns in that game were giant breakaway touchdowns, but he's much more precise this year has been the difference, right? He gets the ball out a little bit quicker, and the competition obviously is what it is, but I think that the fact that they've been able to be dominant with him not having to run at all hardly at this point is a big deal. I mean, frankly, I think you could make a case right now that Texas A&M's passing offense has been the best unit of that team so far, and that was certainly not something that we expected coming into the year. We thought that it would be improved with adding guys like Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver to the lineup, but I think that Reed's development has been just as big a part of it. And whenever Colin Klein came in as an offensive coordinator coming over from Kansas State last year, like, you knew that he wanted somebody who does have the ability to do both. He doesn't just want a running quarterback like maybe he was back in the day. He doesn't want just a throwing quarterback, but somebody who can thread those needles, I think is a big deal for this program. I love the Jaden Daniels comparison. Obviously, Jaden Daniels was a player as well who was a much more consistent runner early in his career than he was thrower. But once the passing came together, everything just really took off.
More big picture storylines on the College Football Insiders after this.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah.
We're back, College Football Insiders. Guys, make sure to like and subscribe to us here on YouTube and search for College Football Insiders wherever you get your podcasts. Continuing on with the big picture storylines going into this huge week 3, USF at Miami. USF fresh off of back-to-back ranked wins as an unranked team. First time in a long time. In fact, it's only the third time we've seen that since 1995 from a program. And now they're nationally ranked, going to Miami, a team that hasn't played top-tier opponents other than Notre Dame. They got a little bit more kind of steam under their feet last week in another blowout win, and Carson Beck looked pretty freaking good, guys. But this week, I did some reporting on USF, was able to talk to Alex Golish, Nico Gramatica, and Byron Brown, the just amazing quarterback that they have that is starting to kind of look like that quarterback we saw 2 years ago before all of his injuries. Remember, Byron Brown was injured for 8 games last season, unable to play, and he has been throwing and slinging the ball around quite a bit, and also running the ball, getting them out of some big situations when they need it. And this is a team that I think right now, guys, their defense maybe is a little bit undervalued. They shut down Boise State. They forced turnovers against Boise State. And then in the swap against Florida, yes, Florida kept shooting itself in the foot. Let's face it, man. I mean, the penalties, the bad play calling, let's face it. But they also held up on some crucial third downs in that game and then got that 3 and out when they needed it to give the ball back to the offense to get Nico Gramatica back into field goal range to win the game. But I really enjoyed reporting on this story. Alex Golish was very open with me, talking about just how he's been a little bit more emotional over the last week or so, knowing that all this hard work is paying off, getting to see his wife and kids on the field after a big win like that. And then also knowing, hey, I want to be in this office till 11:30 midnight tonight. My wife's going to be asleep, but it's worth it because we're getting ready for Miami. And he's also getting to work with his best friends, as he said. Alex Golish, of course, former OC at Tennessee for Josh Heupel, and previously at UCF for Josh Heupel, a guy who was a high school coach not all that long ago and has got him going. And he's got some stars on this team. A lot of guys from the transfer portal they're able to bring in. They're from the Florida and Georgia area to really kind of fill some spots on that team, especially along the defensive line, which, again, I think is undervalued in being able to slow down these opponents so far. But a much different animal they're going to have to face this week at Miami. I would say, obviously, the most talented team they've gone against so far among these two previous ranked teams, but also the most potent offensively as well. And Miami, guys, my goodness, we went into this year with a lot of question marks about them just because they had so many new pieces that they had to get. But they passed week one with flying colors. They won the game in the final minutes, which has always been a criticism of Mario Cristobal as a coach. The offense looked more explosive. All those new receivers were on the mark with Carson Beck, and the defense certainly looks a lot better than it did last year. That secondary last year was historically bad for the Hurricanes. So I can't wait to watch this game. You know, USF, they've been in this position before. You guys remember last year, there was a couple of long field goals by Nico Gramatica. They led Miami 15-14 with about 2 minutes left in the first half. And you know what happened then? The bottom fell out. They end up losing 50-15. Miami just came out on fire in the second half. They were only trailing Alabama last year by 5 points in the final 7 minutes. Then they allowed 4 touchdowns, 4 scores in those final minutes. USF, Alex Golish believes, has learned how to kind of fight through adversity and get through those moments. And a big reason why is because of Byron Brown and that revamped defense.
It's a huge opportunity.
No question.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity for them. And that defense is actually the unit I'm going to be keeping more of an eye on in this game, because for the second week in a row, I mean, they go against one of the best offensive lines in college football. And you know, last week against Florida, they didn't do a great job of getting pressure. They did enough, but I mean, a lot of those mistakes, like you said, for Florida were self-inflicted. I think Carson Beck isn't going to make mistakes like that, right? He's not going to be, he's not going to shoot himself in the foot. You have to find ways to get to him. But the other side of that coin is Carson Beck isn't as escapable as DJ Lagway is in the pocket as well. So I think they really got to try to get home against some of these players, but the dynamic that Byron Brown gives them with his dual threat ability is just so big for this team because he just keeps drives alive. The final score was only 18-16 in that game, but the way that South Florida was able to bleed clock, even when they didn't get points on the board, I think was as critical to them winning that game as anything.
Yeah, and it'll be...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this is an interesting, just like schematically matchup defensively for both of these teams, because both defensive coordinators in this game really love to blitz. Like, it is something they are both among the top defensive coordinators in the country in terms of blitz rate. Corey Heatherman at Miami and Todd Orlando at USF. And I think South Florida's gotten away with that through 2 games largely. They like to create a lot of chaos defensively, but it's a much different test against an offensive line like Miami's. And then conversely, like if you're Miami, like you got to stay in your fits to contain Byron Brown. So it'll be, I think it's a really interesting schematic matchup on that side. And as you said, Brandon, like this is a game that has been close before. South Florida just has to figure out a way to stay in it for the whole game, which I think could be a little difficult to do after the 2 wins they've had. But like this is a much more improved South Florida team, and they have a lot more depth defensively because of what they were able to do, both in internal development and what they brought in the portal.
And I'd also say I think it's a more talented overall Miami team than the Miami team last year. Even though Cam Ward carried them to a lot of wins, I think they're more talented across the board. Okay, another newsy piece, not dealing with games. We're going to go into some billable hours here. So I'm going to get my my glasses on so I get my peepers. Let me get my peepers. Today, we had news from Washington, D.C. that the SCORE Act, this legislation that people are trying to push through Congress, through the House, I should say, they're expecting to go to vote next week to see if they can get something passed and up to the Senate so that the NCAA could receive some antitrust protection. That's been the big question. Can they kind of codify some of the House settlement terms that now the College Sports Commission, this new organization, has been trying to enforce here lately? Well, they've ran into a run block. Surprise, surprise. Once again, we've had some people, including Republicans, stepping back over the last couple of days going, not so comfortable with some of the language in this. Also, there's been quite a push from folks, including Cody Campbell, the billionaire Texas Tech booster, and some of his constituents and folks and supporters up there, to add some things to this legislation that would help the conferences to pull together their media rights in the future. And to do so, they would need to change language in a separate piece of legislation, the Sports Broadcasting Act. Well, even some Republicans right now, especially in the Senate, which again, this has to go to the House first, in the Senate, but especially in the Senate, are hesitant to do. They don't want to get into a situation where contracts have already been signed, they're in effect right now, and now the government comes in and goes, hey, you could blow it all up. Let's blow it all up. You guys just put all your stuff together and send it out to market. Go make yourself more money. A lot of legislators are looking at this going, we're wanting to handle the NIL piece right now. We're not wanting to handle how you make money in the conferences and selling your media rights and everything. So this piece of legislation, I've been told through my sourcing, is going back to the drawing board in a lot of ways. So we went from yesterday, people saying this is going to vote next week. We had Democrats saying that, to we're not voting on it to next week, to we're not voting on it this month potentially, which if that drags out further, guys, you know how the congressional calendar works. We might not do anything this year. We might have to wait till next year. Again, this keeps getting pushed down the road further and further and further. And a lot of decision makers out there on the college side are a little upset today because they want to get this done so they can start enforcing the rules and not get sued every way they turn.
So I do want to jump into this because I think that this has become a little bit of a hot button issue, because if you're watching games right now, you can't avoid these ads, right? You have the SEC putting out an ad last week about the SCORE Act and telling your congressman to support that. You have Cody Campbell running his own campaign where he's out there telling people to I guess, sort of lobby their congresspeople to update the Sports Broadcasting app. Just for a little bit of clarity, right? So what Cody Campbell is advocating for specifically with that piece is he wants to update the 1961 Sports Broadcasting app, which is, by the way, the act that like set which windows the NFL is allowed to be in 60 years ago and what college football has, right, all that. Well, that act ultimately gave way for conferences individually, schools individually at the time, although that was changed later, to be able to negotiate their own television contracts separate from each other. It used to be that the NCAA had the right to negotiate essentially all of the contracts together and kind of distribute the money however they saw fit. Well, basically their case is we're going to be able to come in and negotiate all together, and then we can get rid of this essentially tiered system of the SEC making this much, the Big Ten making this much, Big 12, so on and so forth. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, like you said. And also, it's unclear whether that political will is there. And so, I mean, Brandon, whenever you see the SCORE Act coming forward, like, what's going to be the biggest change with it? Is it going to be that they're going to be able to get some of this stuff in? Is it going to be that it's even more pared down than what's been put forward at this point?
I think it's going to be pared down. I also think that if there's enough push, lobbying, a lot of money being involved in lobbying, there's enough lobbying with the Sports Broadcasting Act to try to get that change. And if some Republicans are really going to push that hard, they're going to have to compromise on some other things with the Democrats when it especially relates to NIL and the idea of unionization and collective bargaining. That's a whole other big anthill. Again, I'm not saying this is all starting over again, but it certainly wasn't great news according to those who I talked to on Thursday morning. It just seemed like they were in the 11th hour about to finally get some movement on this, and it got stopped. Having said that, even if the support was still there in the House, there was a lot of negativity thinking that it probably wasn't going to go through the Senate anyway. So probably for the best that everybody kind of starts back on the drawing board on a lot of this stuff too. So that is Billable Hours. I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm still a nerd, but just a nerd without glasses. We're going to get into Intel.
Is that Is that the same person right there? Like, is that just like a Clark Kent Superman situation?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Whoa.
He's a nerdy journalist both ways, man.
They call me Fark Kent. All right. So, all right, guys, we're going to get into injury intel, personnel updates from our team of reporters at CBS Sports after this.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, gentlemen, a lot of big games out there. Also, a lot of big injuries, a lot of big injury updates. As everybody knows, most of the conferences, the power conferences at least, release injury availability reports, whatever you want to call them, starting on Wednesday. Then they start updating on Thursday, Friday, and even on game day. But also, we've got our own reporting going on out there and things we want to share. Let's start off with Florida and LSU. Our Matt Zenitz reported earlier this week that Florida's going to get back defensive lineman Caleb Banks. That's big. He's missed the first 2 games for them. I know everything looks bad for Florida right now, but that's a huge addition, gentlemen.
That's a massive addition. You could argue that he's their best defensive player, and they've really missed him inside in terms of defending the run and also penetrating uphill and creating some pressure in the pocket. Like, they had to have him play. And that's a huge, huge addition for Florida.
And LSU's got a couple of players that are questionable, both along the offensive front. Braylon Moore, offensive lineman, and also tight end Trade. Am I saying this correctly? Trades Green. I think. Trades Green. Both questionable going in this game. We'll get an update on them later Thursday night going into Friday.
Real quick, I think if you're gonna classify the two, right, like they're both questionable. Like, I would shade Braylon Moore considerably more towards probable and Trades Green considerably more towards doubtful when you think about their availability for Saturday. It's not a lock on either way, but I would think about them in that way.
That's why you listen and watch the show, because we've got stuff that you don't just see from all these other availability reports.
And by the way, that would be a big loss for them, because Trades Green over his past 2 or 3 games has been really, really good for Garrett Nussmeier.
They've got a lot of weapons in that passing game, but they do like attack the middle the field with the tight ends right now at LSU with Garrett Nussmeier. Another big game, Wisconsin at Alabama. A lot of big injury updates here for us to share. The big one, our Matt Zenitz and Chris, I believe you reported on this too, is the situation with Wisconsin's quarterbacks. Danny O'Neal is projected and expected to start over Billy Edwards, who sprained his knee. And O'Neal comes into this with some good numbers, albeit against Middle Tennessee. He was 23 of 37 for 283 yards, 3 touchdowns against Middle Tennessee. I have not been able to see Danny O'Neal play very much. Have you guys?
Yeah, I think the Wisconsin offense has looked really good with them, and he was pretty flawless last week. Obviously, much different test this against Middle Tennessee than it is against Alabama. But I know there's a lot of motivation for Danny O'Neal coming in this game based on some of his stuff with his recruitment in Alabama back in the day, and I think he would be very happy to perform well. But I do think give
us the nuggets, man. What happened?
Oh, I think he attended a camp and got some feedback that wasn't great from the staff. I mean, this is a guy that's like 6 foot, like not your prototypical like quarterback necessarily, and I think there's some motivation there. But I do want to say that like Billy Edwards is still working his way back from injury. I think initially when we talked about that injury, we said he might be back for Alabama. I think it might take a little bit longer than that. Although I do think there's at least a small chance he's available as the backup potentially as he works his way back on Saturday. But it would be very, 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 very surprising if Danny O'Neal wasn't starting on Saturday. The full expectation is he's going to be that guy, and he's been getting all the first team reps.
That game kicks off at noon Eastern Saturday. Of course, travel rosters are smaller than home rosters, so we'll see if Billy Edwards ends up traveling with the team as potentially his emergency backup. Alabama, of course, the big name who we've gone into and kind of went deep on. Receiver Ryan Williams, Kalen DeBoer saying on Wednesday that he is expected to play Saturday after having concussion and going through concussion protocol. We'll see if he goes out there Saturday. I bet he does. They need him out there, and boy, he needs to step it up. As our Matt Zenitz said on the show, one of the shows earlier this week, he has not actually been very productive since his big breakout game against Georgia early last season. Also, running back Jam Miller game time decision. The thinking there, guys, if I'm correct, was they're going to try and push him till get him ready for the Georgia game, right? So might be a surprise to actually see him get cleared for this one. Moving on, Georgia at Tennessee. Again, some big ones here, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Tennessee's cornerbacks, Ricky Gibson III and Jermond McCoy, excuse me. I had to clear my throat there. Both out. McCoy's been out for quite a while. We'll see if he gets back here in the next couple of weeks, right?
I mean, he tore his ACL like earlier this year, like
January, February.
Yeah.
Like he's recovering, but I don't know if we necessarily need weekly Jermond McCoy updates on the
I've seen guys come back, you know.
Yeah, you can definitely come back quickly, but I think he's still in that process.
Okay. Georgia, we mentioned the offensive line right earlier in the show about how they need to do better, and then they've been kind of lacking in that department. Juan Gaston, he is out for this game. And the other one I'm really keeping an eye on, and I want to hear from you guys on, is Ernest Green III. He's listed as probable on the availability report heading into Thursday night.
I would just say generally if a guy's listed as probable, they're gonna play. Like
they're gonna play
that way. Yeah.
Also, Tennessee right tackle David Sanders Jr., who was projected as the starter even as a freshman going into this season. He's questionable as he continues to deal with the shoulder injury. Okay, so that's what we've got on the injury front. We're also following some things at Clemson. There's some questions there going on with Antonio Williams. Dabo Sweeney hasn't really provided an update there over the last couple of days. So by the time you listen to this, we might actually hear more further as they get through their Thursday walkthroughs there at Clemson and make a decision on what their travel roster is going to look like when they go to a game in Georgia Tech, a big one. And we're going to pick that game here later on the show. Okay, guys, it's time for our weekly segment before the big games. It's the pressure index. Who has the most to gain? Who has the most to lose? I'm going to shake it up here because I'm talking too much. Chris, I want to start with you on the pressure index. Who are you looking at and keeping tabs on?
Well, I mean, obviously, like Billy Napier is the answer, right? But that feels lame, right? Like
the thing is, I don't think they would fight. The thing is, it's like we kind of know what could happen with him, and losing to LSU this week is not going to make them go, well, now
we're waiting for the bye. We're waiting for the bye.
Yeah, I think it's a big 2-week stretch for Billy Napier. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Clemson. I'm gonna go with Cade Klubnik, who was my preseason Heisman favorite. It's not like Cade Klubnik's at risk of getting benched, but like he's not played well through 2 games.
Well, that's not what Twitter told me, though.
Well, shout out to Twitter. I've learned a lot there over the years. Anyway, but yeah, Cade Klubnik is a guy that hasn't performed up to expectations. QBR as a metric isn't everything, but he's 104th nationally, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, isn't pushing the ball downfield. Like Clemson needs Cade Klubnik to be the preseason All-American that he was, the preseason Heisman contender he was, and frankly, like Clemson just needs to step up in general. Like this is a team with too much talent to stumble out of the gates like they are, and Georgia Tech's a really good team. Like, and if you go to Georgia Tech and you lose that game, I'm not saying you're out of the playoff race, but you're pretty close playing in the ACC. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Clemson.
Do you think that this is also a situation just as the problems compounded by the running game? As we mentioned on previous shows, just the lack of ability to really get some big explosive runs.
I think it's that. I think it's the offensive line, which hasn't performed up to expectations so far this year. I think it's a combination of everything. Obviously, missing Antonio Williams does not help your offense when he's your best offensive player for Cade Klubnik. So there's a lot of factors, but yeah, I think the run game matters. I think the offensive line matters. I think Cade Klubnik needs to play a little cleaner. Like I think all around, like that Clemson offense just needs to be better.
Shehan, who you got on the pressure index?
Yeah, well, I think, we talked obviously a lot about that Tennessee-Georgia game. I think it's a huge opportunity for Tennessee heading into that spot where they've struggled against Kirby Smart's defenses. So I wanted to take us a little bit in a different direction. I've got Tulane this week. We've had so much conversation about South Florida, and rightfully so, in these first couple weeks of the year. Tulane was my pick coming into the year as the AAC or the American champion. Sorry, Tim Pernetti. Don't get mad at me. But I think that Tulane has showed through the first couple of games, a lot of the excitement and also some of the concerns that we had about them. Last week, they play South Alabama. They get into a shootout, a little bit of a weird game there. So this is a big prove-it spot. They're going and playing Duke. And by the way, you want to talk about Tennessee, looking at their ex? Well, Tulane actually gets to welcome their ex back home. Because Duke, of course, starting Darrien Mensah at quarterback right now, he's looked really, really good through his first 2 games. But Jake Retzlaff has also looked really, really good in his first couple of games since transferring from BYU. So this is a spot between 2 teams that I expect to be in that conversation at the end of the year. I mean, Duke was a team that I kind of had as a dark horse in my ACC title ballot. And Tulane, I think this is that moment where you come out and say, look, we're going to take care of business. We're going to make it happen. They play a really tough schedule this year because they played, obviously Northwestern's not a great team, but like a power conference opponent in the opener. They played Duke here. And I want to say that they play Ole Miss the week after that as well. So like it's one after the other in non-conference for this Tulane team. I think if Tulane wants to establish itself as one of the alphas in the group of 6, this is the game where they do it.
Yeah, I was talking to someone down at Tulane. They're telling me this week, Duke is more talented than us. That much is clear. They also believe that Darrien Mensah is bigger physically. He seems to be a little bit more mentally mature on the field as far as being able to read defenses. Very, very tough matchup for Tulane, but one in which, as you said, this is a put us on the map moment because as you said, Tulane was my pick to be the group of 6 playoff representative. My pressure. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick, it is worth noting, like if anybody knows how to defend Darrien Mensah, it is that John Summerall and his staff. And we talked about this before on this podcast, but there's a lot of motivation in that building to defend him well on Saturday.
Yep. Of course, Tulane lost him because Duke was throwing a lot of money at Darrien Mensah that not a lot of people were willing to pay. So let's see if Duke gets a return on the investment.
I mean, Darrien Mensah, let's put it out here, is the highest paid quarterback in the country at Duke. Like Darrien Mensah, Duke is the highest paid quarterback in the country.
My pressure index team, not player or coach, team is Notre Dame this week. I think this is a win and you continue that playoff hope dream because you look at the rest of the schedule. They don't have another ranked team on the schedule as of right now, though I would argue that USC potentially could be later down the stretch. And if Arkansas were to pull the upset and beat Ole Miss this week, Arkansas, which they have to travel to here in a couple of weeks, could be ranked. But other than that, there's just like landmines on the schedule. There's not like teams you see on there go, they're not going to be favored in that. And A&M comes into town there, and we've seen Notre Dame struggle at home in the Marcus Freeman era. They lost to Northern Illinois last year, but other than that, they've also just struggled at home early in the season for whatever reason. So this is a big kind of put up or shut up moment, I think, for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. Freeman, by the way, already 3-0 in his career against SEC teams, something that Brian Kelly couldn't really do there. And this is a big moment for them. You win this game, you're back into the playoff hunt, obviously, and you've got a series of games here on the schedule where you're going to be favored and you're just going to keep ticking back up the rankings, much like last season where they just kept inching back up and got back into the playoff. But you lose this game, I mean, there's no margin for error. I would say there's no margin for error right now because of the schedule. I just don't see this being a schedule down the road with 2 losses without playing a conference championship game where you end up getting into the playoff. You'll probably see a 3-loss SEC team in before a 2-loss Notre Dame.
Well, and I think it should be, right? Like, this is what's interesting about this Notre Dame team in the schedule is like, if you lose this game, I mean, especially with these revised strength of schedule metrics, like what case do you really have if you have 0 ranked wins? I know that they'd be a 10-win team. Maybe that's just enough. But like, I think that they'd be much more comparable to like a mid-tier ACC team with 10 wins than a 10-win from the SEC, right? Like, just because you look at the teams that you have, like you said, I think that there's a decent chance that USC gets into the rankings. But by the way, if they lose to Notre Dame, they're probably not staying there.
Right.
Arkansas, I'm probably less optimistic about them getting in. But like that's the sort of case, right? Syracuse has been underwhelming. That's, I think, not a great thing for this schedule. So like, I think this is almost a must-win game for Notre Dame, just to keep things going, especially, by the way, because we do not, at least at this point, I don't think, have Texas A&M as a clear playoff team. So if Texas A&M goes on the road and beats you on your home field, and then you don't beat anybody else of note, I don't know how you come back from that. I think this is absolutely a huge game for this program.
Okay, guys, let's go inside the insiders, and let's go inside of me.
Oh, whoa.
Phrasing,
what is
Marcel.
going on?
Come on, man.
What on earth?
All right. So I'm gonna be doing sideline for CBS Sports Network this Saturday. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I am bubbly. I don't know. Think some other superlatives. I'm very excited, but it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of preparation, and I wanted to kind of show you guys what I've been doing this week. So this week I got a spotter chart for the sideline. I'll be on the sideline reporting for SMU Missouri State. So I got a little spotter chart here showing me the breakdowns of the teams, where they're all at, some stats and all that stuff. So I'll be on the sideline looking at my stuff. I'll be making a lot of notes tomorrow. Friday, tomorrow, if you're listening to this in the future, I'm going to be sitting down with the crew and having meetings with Missouri State staff and also SMU staff to kind of say, hey, what's going on with your team, who's injured and everything, so we can properly prepare for Saturday's game at 3:30 Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. And I was looking at the weather forecast. It's supposed to be 95 degrees. And I'm going to be on the sideline wearing a sports coat. It's good. It's going to be very hot. I'm going to hydrate like crazy Friday and Saturday before I get on that field.
Yeah, what's the plan?
No, I was going to say,
the plan there?
Not all at once.
Well, what's the plan there, right? Like you said, you're going to be hanging out on the sidelines. Like, are you told where you're allowed to be? Are you allowed to be under awnings or shade? Like, obviously, I know that this is your first time, right? So, like, I don't know what game plan you have going into it.
Well, also, I mean, this week I've been calling a lot of people at SMU and Missouri State, trying to figure out some storylines, also just get a heads up on some injuries and stuff. But I've had to keep those under lock and key until we get to the game Saturday for the broadcast.
Can you tell us that we can gamble on it?
No, not happening. So, but I've been talking to a lot of folks and just trying to prepare as much as I can, finding interesting storylines just to bring up in quick, like 30-second hits on air to fill people in. Kevin Jennings, of course, the quarterback at SMU, who's just very dynamic. SMU coming off a very disappointing loss in overtime to Baylor at home last week, and now most definitely has to continue to win and be successful to get into the playoff for a second straight season. Of course, they haven't started ACC play, so that's a big thing for them. But more or less, it's just you over prepare, and then that's what everybody tells me. Because this is my first game, and all the other sideline reporters I've talked to doing my research. If you guys know me, I'm like I've got something going on with me, but I'm an over preparer for things because I'm always fearing the worst. So this has been like 24 hours a day preparing for things. I've got so many notes. I'll probably use 3 of them. But I'm excited.
Well, hey, Brandon, 2 quick things. One, Jacob Clark, Missouri State's quarterback, pretty good. Like, there were some P4 teams that
Rockwell,
were
right?
Yes. Yep.
Portal. Secondly, I would like to amend my pressure index. I'm putting Brandon Marcello at the top because I don't need to hear you stumble when asking Rhett Lashley a question at halftime. Like, I need that to be executed well, and if it's not, I'm going to roast you on Sunday. So that's pressure index like a 12.
The other pressure part of that is like, can I keep my forehead from being so shiny on the air? Because I'm going to be sweating like crazy.
Hey, you're going to be a beacon.
It's going to be nuts. And by the way, Brandon means Beacon Hill, and so I think it's very apt. No, but I'll put some powder on, so I'll be dabbing the powder on my head on the sideline during the game. Hopefully I can convince the producer that, hey, can I take this jacket off when I'm not on camera? Because I'm going to be running around on the field trying to get notes and everything. But I'm very much looking forward to it. I love watching games to press box or whatever, but I love being on the field. In the final, get a little behind the scenes thing. The final 5 to 6 minutes of a game, they let the reporters from the press box down the field to watch the final minutes. And those are my favorite parts of the day, because you get to see what's happening. You get to listen to the coaches. You get to listen to some of the players talking to each other. And so I'll get to do that the entire game. I haven't been able to do that since covering high school ball, and that was a lot of fun. And I miss that type of stuff. So I'm very, very excited.
So what does your schedule look like? Are you going up to, because you're Northwest Arkansas, so the game's in Springfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a far drive, obviously. So do you head up tomorrow? When do you head out? Like, how does that?
I'm leaving after the show. 2.5 hour drive. I'm going to drive up there, get settled, and then we've got meetings all day, starting in the morning throughout the day. So meet with some the Missouri State staff, and then we'll have a production meeting. And then we will have a meeting with the SMU staff once they get into town and arrive at their team hotel. And then we'll go to dinner. I'll go back to the hotel room and continue making my notes. And then it'll be game day. And I will have an IV. Make sure I don't pass out.
And by the way, there is one note that's pretty cool that you haven't mentioned as yet. This is Missouri State's first ever home FBS game.
It's pretty cool. It's their first ever home FBS game, and it's against a power conference opponent.
Yeah.
Which I found out why that all came to be. Tune into the broadcast. I'll share why.
I was really going to say, I'd be very curious to understand how SMU.
It's interesting how this all came to be, actually. It's pretty interesting. So that'll be on the broadcast. So anyway.
And by the way, I don't think that it's speaking out of turn to say that you have a relationship with Rhett Lashley from his time up at from his time in Northwest Arkansas too. So pretty cool that you get to open with him as well.
I got a lot of connections in this game, man. Ryan Beard, the head coach, son-in-law of Bobby Petrino. I covered Bobby Petrino his first years at Arkansas. I've known Rhett Lashley forever. I covered him at Auburn. We talk all the time, and it'll be fun. But I'm as objective as they come. And Rhett Lashley will even tell you that, because he probably gets pretty mad at me for having to report on things. So anyway.
I will tell you what, people do ask me about that sometimes, about like, how do you not be biased? Like, the thing is too, like you said, people at SMU and at Missouri State. Like, so it's like, ultimately, by the time you get to this place in the industry, you kind of just know everybody. And so there's not really anybody to root for over someone else. And by the way, you're going to see Missouri State's first ever FBS game. That's a really cool story. Also, SMU,
awesome.
really good there's no downsides when you become a reporter. You get to root for everything.
You're exactly right. I'm just rooting for, good games and everything, even though it's a wide point spread. I just hope that Missouri State somehow convinced notable alum John Goodman to show up for the first FBS home game. I would love to be able to see him and tell him that I love Righteous Gemstones.
I can't do Righteous Gemstones. I'm probably one of the few people who can't. The humor just is so, it's on purpose. I was never a big Eastbound and Down person either. The humor is just you're living in Danny McBride's brain, and that's a lot for some people. I get that. It's definitely a show. Vice Principals is one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've ever had as a viewer.
Really?
Yeah, this is one of those shows that I definitely, especially by the way, because I grew up in Texas, in Dallas, in the church and all that too, and my wife didn't. But this is definitely one of those shows that I watch when she's not around. I did not watch Gemstones with her. I did not try to put her through that.
Hey, that was Sunday night appointment television viewing for us, for my wife and I. We watched it religiously, some might say.
See, this is why he's on TV, guys. This is why he's getting the jacket and getting paid the big bucks for Marcel.
Come on now, go outside, you nerd. Okay, that was Baby Billy, Uncle Baby Billy. Okay, let's get the picks, gentlemen. We know the rules. Quick picks. We give our pick, give a little 5-second reason, and then we move on. And we got some big games. And to be quite honest with you, I can't remember what I picked, so this is going to be an adventure. All right, let's start.
Yeah, we are not held to the picks on our website, by the way. You get some picks here, you get some picks there. They might not be the same picks.
Okay, we're going to start with number 18 USF at number 5 Miami. Let's start with Chris Hummer and work our way back over to me.
I like Miami. I think it's been South Florida's really talented and been a really nice run, but I think this is one of the 10 best teams in the country they're going up against on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that this is a very competitive game at halftime, and I think that Carson Beck hits on a throw in the second half that just breaks it wide open.
Miami by 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
Number 6, Georgia at number 15, Tennessee.
Georgia. I need to see it from Tennessee with Joey Aguilar in this setting. I'm a little worried about the Georgia offensive line, but I think they're going to look a lot different this week than they have in the first 2 weeks. So give me the Dogs.
Like I've mentioned, Tennessee has had huge issues with this Georgia defense, but I have like some little piece of optimism for them, right? I like the fact that they're pushing the ball down the field for their sake. I like that Georgia's struggling to run the ball right now, but I think that Georgia just kind of, I think it's a very low scoring game that Georgia just gets one more score in.
So, Hummer, remind me what you said about Georgia like earlier.
Georgia's defense hasn't really been what we think of Georgia's defense the last couple of years. Like I'm pulling up the stat now, but I believe Georgia was like pretty like mid. Oh, that's a convenient time to cut.
Mid.
What's going on, bruh?
Yeah,
I picked Georgia.
You're rolling with your mid defense and your mid offense.
Mid rushing defense last year for their standards. Producer Aaron is doing me dirty.
We're not about context here. We're about hot takes like everybody else.
Here's a hot take. Georgia's good.
I would think so. They're pretty talented. I think Gunnar Stockton is going to have a very good game, to be quite honest, against this Tennessee defense. I got Georgia.
Yeah,
okay.
The opportunity's all there. It's all there for them.
It's all there.
Corners out.
Yes, exactly. Number 16, Texas A&M at number 8, Notre Dame. I can't wait to watch this one once I get done with my game. Hey, this is going to be, I think this is has the makeups of being very electric. What we got, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Texas UTEP on Saturday, so I don't know if we're going to get around to picking that, but I'll also watch that one after we get to this one. But I'm actually picking the upset. I'm going to pick A&M to go on the road and win the game. I've been bullish on the Aggies all offseason. I've talked about them all offseason as a dark horse playoff contender. I think Marcel Reed has made the jump, and I think they make a statement on the national stage on Saturday.
That would be huge.
Yeah, I've been high on them all off season too. Their defense, though, I don't know what's going on with them. Utah State, they allowed 22 points. UTSA, that's very much a game at halftime after they allow close to 20. I just don't know what to think about that. So for me, I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I also think Notre Dame needs this game a whole lot more than Texas A&M does.
I think this is going to be a game where we see some explosive, like back and forth, and then it'll get into lulls. I think both these teams are going to be filling each other out. They're both can be explosive at times. And I think it's just going to come down to in the final 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, which team is able to be more explosive and their defense can step up. It's at home. I like Marcus Freeman in late game situations, guys. I'm going to go Notre Dame. Okay. Number 12, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Some questions about some availability of some players for Clemson. We're trying to report on that right now, but there are questions. Georgia Tech, as we know, very tough team in the trenches, and they're playing in Atlanta. What we got, Hunter?
I don't like it, but it picked Clemson to win the national championship, so I'm picking Clemson. But I think there's a lot of value. That line keeps dropping for a reason. I think it opened at 4.5. There was a lot of value with Georgia Tech at 4.5 before. And I still think there's value with Georgia Tech at like 2.5. But I'm picking Clemson for the record just because of my preseason.
Okay.
I think people are getting a little too cute with this. I think that Georgia Tech is a really good team, really dynamic team. Haynes King has been dealing with some injuries. Yeah. And I also think that being a dynamic rushing team going against this Clemson defense is not the ideal matchup that I'd like to create. And especially because I don't know that Georgia Tech's going to get a whole ton of stops even against this Clemson offense. So give me Clemson. I think they pull away late.
I think Clemson's offense reawakens, whatever you want to call it, and they end up pulling away to win this one in Atlanta. Okay, Wisconsin at number 19, Alabama. Hummer, I don't know. I don't know about this. I think Wisconsin's walking into a wood chipper, but what do you think?
I actually picked Alabama to win, but Wisconsin to cover. Wisconsin right now is, I think, 10th nationally in time of possession. They're going to shorten the game. I think I still have some questions about Alabama up front. I am picking the Crimson Tide to win, but I do think Wisconsin ultimately covers here.
Yeah, I think that this is an Alabama by a billion situation. I just don't think that Wisconsin is anywhere close to being able to hang, even against an Alabama team that I am very disappointed by to this point.
Alabama's still pissed off. They beat Wisconsin big. Arkansas at number 17, Ole Miss. Hummer, what we got?
I picked Ole Miss. That's a game that I think you just take the over no matter what the number is. I think there's going to be a lot of points, but I do think Ole Miss ultimately pulls away late.
This is a weird game because I don't feel like we know a ton about either of these teams with some of the guys that they flipped. I think that Arkansas has the better and more dynamic quarterback in this game. I just don't know that they have anything else over Ole Miss, so give me Ole Miss.
Arkansas quarterback Taylor Green leads the country with 10 touchdown passes, been much more dynamic this year. He's also faced Alabama A&M and Arkansas State. I think they struggle out of the gates early in their first road game, and Ole Miss ends up holding on as Arkansas hard charges there for the remainder of the game, but Ole Miss hangs on and wins this one. Vanderbilt at number 11, South Carolina. Boy, do I love this one. Oh, I can't wait.
I've got picking another upset. I'm picking Vanderbilt. I think they've been the better team this year. I think South Carolina's been a little overrated all offseason. I think I have some real questions.
Would you say they're
offensively? Mid? What's up?
Would you say they're mid?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't need any like weird cuts.
I mean, if top 5 Georgia's mid, what's South Carolina, bro?
Hey,
yeah,
listen,
you're
all
right,
he said was that every single phase of the team individually is mid. That doesn't mean collectively. They're greater than the sum of their mid parts.
Hey, when you bring mid together, it equals middle, which is better than bad. So, that's what you need. I just think a team that struggled to score, needed 2 touchdowns to bail them out in the first half against South Carolina State in the punt return game, is not operating on all cylinders offensively. And I think Vanderbilt's going to shorten the game and ultimately come away with the win.
Well, I will say about Georgia, they're mid everywhere, so you create a giant middle, and that middle was still better than Middle Tennessee, which actually lost to Austin Peay. Anyway, that was a long way to get there. This is a really, really fun game. I'm excited for this one. And by the way, this is one that I definitely don't remember, which I picked on the official pick. But the more I think about it, I think I like Vandy. I think that this is a South Carolina team, like you said, that has some really dynamic pieces and also has some really glaring holes. I think Lenora Sellers has been figured out in the passing game a little bit, and I don't think has the weapons to compensate. And I think, ironically, Vandy might be a team that has just more competitive depth at the top right now. So give me Vandy, give me the Fighting Diego Papias.
Let's make it 3 in a row. Tic-tac-toe.
Wow.
I'm Vanderbilt.
Oh, man. South Carolina's going to kill them
I want
now.
to switch my pick now, guys.
Vanderbilt, I mean, I watched the second half of their game at Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech, in a lot of ways, is just soft up front in the second half of that game. That they were just gashing them. They weren't even trying, it seemed like, Virginia Tech, which is a whole other conversation about what's going to happen to Brent Pry there. But I do think that there's something to be said about Vanderbilt just being able to kind of push their will on people. And I'm not sure South Carolina's ready for that. I got Vandy pulling this one out. Florida at number 3, LSU. Does Billy Napier get back on track?
If this was in the swamp, I would pick Florida. It's not, so I'm going LSU's direction. I think LSU is very difficult to play on the road. LSU is very difficult to play at night. And frankly, I trust LSU's defense a little bit more right now than I trust what we've seen in terms of a product from Florida's offense. So give me LSU.
I'm trying to remember the last time that Florida won in Death Valley, because it's been a very long time, I believe. And I just don't see this as being one of those spots where they jump up. Now, look, Florida's got the talent, but they're still dealing with some injuries, and I just don't think that they've looked on the same page enough through the first couple of games. So I think this is another big opportunity for LSU. I don't know what the line is. I think that LSU probably won't cover. I think Florida will come back late, but I think LSU wins this game.
I don't trust anything about Florida right now, and I especially don't trust them in a place where it never rains. LSU, easy. All right, last game on the docket that we're picking. Duke at Tulane. This guy has some fireworks just on the sidelines. What we got?
I got Tulane. I think they've been game planning this game for about 10 months now.
I love it. I agree. I think that Duke kind of missed their own opportunity last week against Illinois. I think it kind of snowballed a little bit at the end. But I think that this is a big spot for Tulane. They know that they have to win it going into Ole Miss. And I mean, I'll tell you what, too, if the AAC has Tulane and South Florida going into conference play looking the way that they might, I mean, this is probably going to be one of the best AAC races. Oh my gosh, American races that we see in years.
And they don't play each other in the regular season either.
Ooh, okay, we're gonna get a banger of an American title game. I can't wait.
I'm gonna go with Tulane too. I don't like what I saw from Duke in the second half last week. I know it's Illinois; they're gonna lean on you. I did not like this. I did not like the way they responded. I think they're gonna frustrate Mensah. I think he's gonna have a couple of turnovers, and Tulane ends up winning this. And here in a few weeks, we're talking about John Summerall as a candidate for a big Power 5 job or Power 4 job. We'll see. He's probably gonna be a candidate anyway if they even have a winning season there. He's highly recommended among a lot of.
Producer Aaron is demanding a Minnesota Cal pick.
Oh, by the way, I did see that the local Bay Area TV channel gave a very helpful explainer of how to say his name correctly. So it's Jaron Kiave. So apparently the W is pronounced like a V almost, and then Sangopolutele. So Sangopolutele. So it's actually, once you break it down, that's always the thing with the Polynesian names. And even, I mean, look, my name is Shehan J. Raja. I understand that. But like,
which I screwed up on a show last week.
Well, you know what? Your batting average is pretty good so far. I'd rather you mess up my name than,
I better not mess up some of the names on this.
That's what I was going to say.
I've been practicing so many names. I'm like a little boy practicing for a spelling test.
I'm trying to I mean, I don't know Missouri State's roster well enough. I'm trying to think if there are any hilarious ones that you might mess up at SMU. Oh. I feel like Isaiah Wacobia is a tough one because it's like got the NW going on there. But
it's easy to say. It's Wacobia.
Yeah, Wacobia. Once you get it, you get it. But yeah. Anyway.
Cal at Minnesota, guys.
Yeah. So the line is Minnesota -2.5. It's at Cal.
It's at Cal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, two exciting young quarterbacks, by the way. Drake Lindsey's got a little something for Minnesota. Obviously
from Fayetteville.
Is he really?
Boy.
Well, why did he go to the snow? That's weird. And then obviously you got JKS on the other side, who looks like one of the best true freshmen in the entire country. But like, I'm going Minnesota. I just don't think that they're going to be able to hold up to the physicality for 4 quarters.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's Minnesota for me. Hummer, did you?
I'm just going to share producer Aaron's pick. He's picking Minnesota. I'm going to abstain because I'm not prepared for that.
No faith at all. Oh man.
Producer Aaron saying in the chat, "I hate PJ Flex sweater and tie."
Wait, is Darius Taylor came back healthy, right? Because I know he went out a little bit in the middle of that last week's game. I think that he's healthy because that is definitely
his
a
status
big deal.
Is still. He's got
it's up in the air.
He's dealing with.
Okay, well, if Darius Taylor is out, I think that's probably good news for Cal. But I'd imagine he plays. So we'll wait and see.
I'll tell you what, nobody breaks down Cal, Minnesota like the College Football Insiders. Thanks for joining us. Big week 3 on tap. Hey, please like and subscribe on YouTube and search for College Football Insiders wherever you find your podcasts. Give us a 5-star review too, especially if I get through a whole show and I say names correctly. That would be great. I'm Brandon Marcello. Thank you, Shehan Jayaraja. I did it. Chris Hummer. We will be back Sunday morning, wrapping up the week that was. It's going to be a big week, fellas. We will see you down the road.